Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you two things. So I have to open up a bracket, then I will sandwich the pitch in between, and then I will close the bracket. Like I will prepare a complete sandwich for you. So in between, there will be a pitch talk. So what I'm going to show you quickly in 5 minutes, when I was doing PhD, how my journey looked like on an yearly basis. So in year one, what I did in year two, year three, and year four, and I will highlight where the pitch research journey started within my PhD journey. So that's the start, and then I will introduce you to the pitch. And then in the end, I'll share my own pitch research template, which I prepared after learning the pitch. So that's the complete package we are having today. So how my PhD journey looked like on a yearly basis. So if you look at here, this was my first year of my PhD. So not many things happening, very few things. And as we know from business background, the first thing comes is the investment. So you have to sacrifice your current consumption for future higher consumption. So first thing is investment. So in PhD or in research, may it be honors or PhD, so you have to invest your time. So in first few months or first year, you may not see much of the outcome happening. So you have to keep reading an article, doing literature review, trying to narrow down the literature, find the research questions, and then you start progressing. So in the first few months of early time of your research, you may not get a lot of the output, but as the time progress, so you can see in the second year, later half of my PhD, a lot of things started happening. So I got some teaching, and then I attended conferences. I got some travel grants. And I participated in internal seminars as well. And in between, I started learning driving, and my daughter was born towards the end of my second year of PhD. And then in the third year, you can see a lot of things are happening right from the start, and the whole year looked like a lot of things happening. So here in the third year, you can see this Circa travel grant, which was for the pitching research symposium. And that was my first exposure to the pitching research template. So you can say I came to know about the call for pitching research symposium in 2014, somewhere in November, and then they gave the travel grant. The Circa gave the travel grant, and I was able to then attend the symposium. That was my first formal exposure to the pitching template. Okay. And then in the fourth year, you see a lot of things are happening just about the pitching things. So the Circa pitching research symposium, whatever I presented there, that pitch research letter was published in Journal of Accounting and Management Information System. And then I was attending the class with Professor Robert Favre, so where I gave the presentation on my second pitch research letter. And then from there, I took the role of pitch ambassador. So that was in the fourth year of my PhD. And then I visited Pakistan to deliver two pitching research talks on behalf of Professor Robert. And then we were able to deliver two webinars using Zoom from University of Queensland to University of Haripur and Comsat University in Pakistan. So that was my complete, the full-fledged start of the pitching research journey in the fourth year of my PhD. And then you can see other things are happening throughout this year. My second son was born in the fourth year of PhD as well. And then the final year when I completed my PhD, and now you see a lot of output is happening. So the second pitch research letter in Accounting Research Journal, this was my PhD paper in A-Rank Journal. And other pitch paper was published in JMIS. Okay, so that's all about my PhD journey, and I briefly highlighted where the pitching research is falling in that. Okay, so let me now share with you the slides related to the pitch. Okay, so here we need to first discuss that why we should pitch our research. Why should we bother to pitch our research, and to whom we should pitch our research. So this is an open-ended question that I want you to engage. So you may use the mic to contribute to the discussion, or you may write in the chat box. So because this, I believe that this pitching research, you will learn by doing. So I can give talk after the talk, but if you don't take actions on your own, the learning will never happen. So if I keep speaking, then this is a passive learning. So I'm a strong believer of active learning, where we learn by participating in the discussion or learn by doing things. So that's the deep learning, instead of just surface learning where I'm speaking and you're just receiving. So what do you think? What questions I'm asking? I'm saying what this pitching research is all about. Why should we pitch our research, and to whom we should pitch our research? Think about your situation. You're doing honors, you're doing PhD. So why you should bother about pitching your research? Anyone watch cricket? So I used to be the captain of my cricket team. I'm from Pakistan, so Pakistan is playing with South Africa. So one match was so Pakistan won the first match and lost the second match. So the match starts around 6 p.m. So today is the third match, and my wife, if she comes to know that there is a cricket match and Pakistan is playing with some other team, she start complaining. She says that you stay at office and when you come back, now it's a match. So in cricket, you see there is a pitch, and it's really important that as a bowler, you pitch the ball at a right spot. So if there is a full toss, like the ball straight away goes to the batsman without hitting on the ground, then it's just a lolly for the batsman. So he can straight away hit it for six or for 4 runs. But if the ball hit a good length, then it will be difficult for the batsman to really score. So I'm referring here the batsman, you may consider it as your research proposal review committee, and your supervisor as well. So your supervisor at the start is the batsman that you have to really convince that you are really a good bowler. And then the thesis research proposal review committee for PhD students, you must pitch your research in front of them in an appropriate manner. Once you pass these two hurdles, you convince your supervisor, convince the thesis research proposal review committee, and then you execute your plan. You come up with research paper. Then you have to pitch your research to the journal reviewers and editors. So for publications, so that's the ultimate goal. We have to publish the research findings that we come out of the research process. Okay. So I think the main thing here is you have to convince your supervisors. Once you convince them, you have to convince the research proposal review committee. This is for PhD student, then thesis examiners, then journal reviewers and editors. And the main thing that we want to achieve from here is the publication in highly reputed, internationally recognized journals. Okay. Do you get the point? So why it is important to convince the supervisor? Because supervisor is the first who will give annual progress report, who will sign on your thesis before it goes for examination. Okay, so supervisor has to be convinced, and supervisor gives the feedback to your research proposal, to your research paper, and then increases the chances that you will be able to publish your research paper. Okay, so it's really important that we pitch our research to the supervisor in a way that is easy for the supervisor to give feedback, and then we pass other important examination processes in order to have good publications. Does it make sense? Okay, so that's good. So here is the thing that can help us to really achieve that goal. So pitching research, framework developed by Professor Robert Pfaff, who is currently associated with Bond University as professional fellow, and he is emeritus professor at University of Queensland. So I want to highlight two of the pitch research papers in which the pitch template is embedded. Here is the static version of the pitch research paper. So you can see the title is a simple template for pitching research. So this is already published in accounting and finance in 2015. So in your subject reading that Corinne has shared, this paper is part of that. So this is the, you can say this is the seminal paper in pitching research, the first paper that brings the pitching idea out to the market in a published format. Okay, so this is a must-read paper for anyone who start learning the pitching template. Then the second paper is a live version, which is more dynamic. It's not published. It is available on SSRN, which is a repository for working papers. So if you have working paper, you can upload it. It doesn't go through any review process. So you can make it publicly available. So this live version is available on SSRN. So recently, Professor Robert have released the 18th version on 8th of March 2021. So you see our pitching research webinar on reverse engineering was conducted on 16th March. So this was 1 week before that it was released. And you can see the rich history, how it is developed. I started using the pitch template somewhere here in 2014. So I came across that version, and then it keep improving and more things keep coming. So if anyone is interested to see the previous versions, we may request Professor Robert to share with us. So how pitching research, the live version is evolving over the period of time. So so that's that. These are the two papers. So one is the seminal paper, and this one is the live dynamic paper, which you can keep checking if new version comes. Anything new, Professor Robert have included. To give you something, as an academic, we are concerned about the impact of our research. So so one way to check the impact of our research is to see how many downloads of our paper are in a general public. So this is one raw measure of an impact. So can anyone guess how many times this paper have been downloaded from SSRN? You can check it. I have a link here. Later on, I will share the slides. Anyone can guess, like 500, 1000, 2000, 5,000. I think I should create a poll, which I do in my coursework. So anyone, try to engage with me. It's okay. Nothing is right and wrong at this moment. You're not assessed, but I know I have to give you something in this pitching research talk that you can then use to prepare a peer review for the pitch. I know you have an assessment for that. So my talk is designed to really help you to prepare for that assessment. Okay, so Toby is saying 7,500, Corinne 2,000, and Isabella 3,000. Yun is saying 5,000. Okay, so I don't have a virtual chocolate with me, but when I used to teach in the campus, like on campus, I used to bring the chocolates. And if anyone contribute to the discussion, then the chocolate is a you can say it's a calorie. It's more energy to contribute more. Okay, so it's not like get a chocolate and then sleep. Okay, so Tina is saying 6,000. So what if I say, let me show you. Okay, so can you see the stats that I have brought here? So this paper, it's on the right hand side of the screen if your videos are not hiding that. So 17,878 times this paper have been downloaded, and it is ranked 183 all around the world. Like all the papers available on SSR and which are in thousands, hundred and thousands, this paper is ranked at 183. And you can see this note why Professor Robert is saying don't circulate the PDF version, which is fair enough. circulate the link so that we download the link, and then it keep increasing the download to see an impact is there. So now next time if someone asks you to use the link to download the paper, you should understand why this is being asked. So as a student, we should know that we should help each other. Okay, so if you click on that, it's a download, and download is a way to show the impact. Okay, abstract view is much more. So you can see many people see the abstract, but when it comes to download, it is not there. So abstract is really important to open a channel and then lead the authors, lead the public to download the paper. So don't give everything in the abstract, just few prompts, and then a person download the paper to get more idea. Yeah, I think it's just like the companies when it comes to the
Mm,
industry, when they develop any product
mm,
and you own it and you believe that it can really help
mm,
people to satisfy their needs, wants, and demands, we use marketing. We really go broad. And as a business student, we know we have to use there are 4 P's. One of the P is promotion. So
mm,
promotion is really important, but sometimes as an academic we think that if we promote ourselves, it doesn't suit well. But
mm,
when it comes to our promotion application or probation application, we know what the academic the review committee is looking for.
mm.
They are not looking for how many papers we have published. Yes, that is one thing, but what is an impact? Have you engaged the wider community?
I mean,
And
this
in
is an
our
incredible result here. 17,000 downloads.
that's really astonishing. I think we will see this to be ranked number 1 in the time to come, the way it is progressing. That's really great. So what I learned from my supervisor and from Professor Robert, that in Australian environment in particular, where academics are doing so many things, involved in so many things, so it's really important to develop your branding. So what you are really good at. So it may be to have an impact on internal community where you're working, or maybe have an impact on external community. And as part of our academic performance framework, just to share with students, so we are doing research, we are doing teaching, and we are having governance. One of the criteria in these 3, teaching, research, and governance, is community engagement. So a wider community engagement is part of that. So what we see here from these statistics, it shows the engagement with the wider community. Okay, so one more thing that is about the tool. It has been recognized globally. So it has received the AACSP recognition as a global ingenuity, innovation, and creativity. So it has been awarded that recognition, and this has been shared on the LinkedIn. Can you see the LinkedIn page? Yes, so Professor Robert, when it was recognized by AACSB, he shared this on LinkedIn. So again, to Corinne's point, that whatever he's doing around the pitching research, yes, it's his tool and it is being widely shared among the general public. Okay, so that's the one thing. Okay, so one thing that is happening now that you may wish to join is the global network, Global Pitching Research Network. So it is named as International Society of Pitching Research for Responsible Science. So, after the reverse engineering talk on 16th of March, when I discussed my reflection, Professor Robert invited me for another meeting. So we had a meeting after a couple of days, and then he shared his intention to create a global pitching research network where he want to know all of those stories. Like he heard about my story. There are hundreds of stories like that. So why not we bring everyone together under a global network? And if I click on that, it will again take me to the LinkedIn profile where he has shared that activity which is going on. And if I click on this Dropbox link, he has shared like the whole document what this tool, what this global network will be doing. So why we have created this network, who will become the member, how this network will operate, and what are the activities we will be having. So I have been given a role of vice president communication. So I will be collecting all the stories around the pitching research that are happening around the world. I think more than 50 countries, here 40 countries. And in this document, it is saying 65 foundation members, but now we have crossed more than 100 across 49 countries. So I will be looking after the e-newsletter, where we'll be pulling all the stories around the world, and we will be bringing it in the e-newsletter. And you can see in the network there are people from all over the world. There are people from Australia, Kenya, Pakistan, England, Canada, Brazil. So you keep adding into it, and it's keep building. It's keep building. There are a number of people who are joining. So why I'm sharing this to all of you is something is happening. Like it's happening at a vast scale. The pitching research paper have been downloaded by many, and now Professor Robert has taken a professional fellowship role at University of at Bond University. So he is actively taking this task to a wider community. So if you associate yourself now to this template through Buzz 980, COM 481, and Buzz 980, 981. So you should be able to affiliate yourself with this network in the time to come once you show your active participation in the tool. Okay, what is the bigger motivation behind this pitching research? If I ask you a question, what do you think? What is the biggest hurdle for any research project? What do you think? It's a quite broad question, but I just want to hear from you. What do you think? Think about your research project, and what do you think? What can be the biggest hurdle?
Starting.
Luca is saying starting is the biggest hurdle. Within starting, what are the hurdles? Yes, of course, to start anything is the biggest challenge. As we say that your first step is your first achievement. So if you don't take first step, you can't really start the journey. So you see the kids, when they take the first step and they fell down after that, the parents still become very happy. They are excited. So start is really, really challenging. But what do you think within start, what is challenging?
Devising a
Yeah.
question, like identifying what's missing in the existing research.
Yes, Isabel, exactly. So what is missing in the existing body of knowledge? And existing body of knowledge, there are hundreds of papers around any topic, any broader topic. So you have to review them and then narrow the literature to see what is missing and what can be the research question you want to answer. Anything else? That's really good, Isabella, Luca. Thanks for contribution. What else? When it comes to starting a research project,
I think, as mentioned, it is not easy to find the research gap, but more difficult to me is how to improve the existing gap. That is very difficult.
yeah, Toby, what you're saying is you are coming to, like, one is we understand what has been done, the existing body of knowledge, and then we try to identify what is missing. So, and then we develop the research questions. So we say, this is the research question that we want to answer, but how we will answer that, you need theoretical argument around that. Then you need to collect the data. Then you need to use the econometric tools, and then you have to have the findings, and then you present it in a paper format. Okay, so of course, that is also a challenge that uh, what is research question and how we are going to answer that research question. What will be the theory? What will be the data? What will be tool? Okay, so yes, so we all know you have contributed to that, that starting is really a challenge for any research project. But if we don't start, we don't finish. The second challenge, how to finish a project. Can you guess how many years or months it can take to start a project and then finish it? Finish means publishing it. And any guess?
Years.
Years, yes. How many?
3, 4.
Yes. Any other answer? Luca is saying 3 to 4 years. And this is the time duration for your PhD. Yes, 3 to 4 years. If you're doing full-time PhD on scholarship. And what happens after your PhD when you have to find a job? What is the selection criteria? The first selection criteria you see in most of the job advertisement is the demonstrated ability or the evidence of publishing in top tier journals. So if it takes 3 to 4 years for normal person to publish a paper, then how you're going to fill that selection criteria? So it means you really need to push hard when you start a project, then finish it in a quick and efficient manner. Okay, so normally it takes 3 years. For me, I think 1 or 2 projects I published within 2 years, but other than that, it took me more than 2 years to really publish the paper in a highly ranked journal. Okay, so what we are talking about here is pitching template. Pitching research is all about starting a project. So once you start it, then you can use the pitching framework to refine your project, and then ultimately you can publish it. Who are
Sorry,
the
may I ask a question?
Yes, Toby.
So I'm just curious, when you say spend around 2 years to finish one project, so you mean 2 years for one project, or 2 years you can work for multi projects? So in 2 years you can have few outputs. So that
Yep.
would be
Yep.
different thing, right?
Yeah, Toby, it's an excellent point. When it comes to research, we don't only focus on published version of our paper, published paper. We have to have a pipeline. Okay, so first paper normally as a novice researcher, the early career researcher, it can take a long time to have the first draft. And once you have the first draft, or you have several iteration of it in consultation with your supervisor, you present it in conferences, it will keep improving. But at the same time, you kickstart another project. While you are keep moving on the first project, you are improving it, you're starting a second project. So now the first project is submitted in a journal. Now you're focusing on second project. Maybe you're using the same data now. So now if it is the same data, just a question is changing, some tools are changing, you can then progress fastly on second project. So, and then you can kickstart your third project in the same time. And then your first project came back with the revision or maybe rejection from the journal. So then you learn how to deal with the multiple projects. So when you put everything together and you see how much time it can take for one paper, on average, you will see it takes substantial amount of time. Okay, so 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and you can track some of the published papers in Journal of Finance. They also give when it was submitted and when it was published. So you can see how much time it took. And when it was submitted, you can see how many years it took to reach to the submission point. It took maybe 3-4 years to really reach to the submission point. And it is not only submitted in Journal of Finance, it may have been submitted to Journal of Financial Economics, a Review of Financial Studies, Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analysis. It was rejected from there, and now it is in Journal of Finance, submitted and then published. Okay, so it's a journey. It looked challenging in the start, but later on it becomes really rewarding once you publish 1 or 2 papers and you overcome the fear of publishing, and then you start enjoying it. Okay, so pitching research is all about starting a new project. Who is the target audience? So there are 2 types of audiences. The primary audience is people like you who are just starting their research journey. So you are in your honors program or you're doing PhD. Some of you have passed the I think all of you have to do the research proposal review. And it also target a person like me, because I'm a junior academic. I'm still into less than 5 years since I completed my PhD. So it is targeted to us, you can say, all together, junior academics and novice researchers. And it also provides, when it comes to the pitching template, it gives cues for the pitcher. So in each section of the pitch, what you should populate in. So that's really good. So it comes with a manual. And then the secondary audience is senior researchers like supervisors, the senior research collaborators, the research mentors. So it's also designed for them. So they are in pitching term, the senior academics are known as the pitchee, and novice researchers are known as the pitcher. And even for the pitchee, there are cues for the pitchee as well. Okay, so for novice researchers, how to fill the template? There are questions within each section of the template. And for the reviewer, for the pitcher, for the pitchee, for the supervisor, we have a separate template with the list of questions, what to look for in the pitcher's pitch template. Okay, so I'll share that with you as well at the end of the presentation, so that when you have to do the peer review of the pitch prepared by a fellow student, you can use that. But of course, you have to follow Corinne, what she has designed for you, what she's requiring from you. But you can use that cues for pitchy as a supplementary material to review the pitch prepared by your fellow student. Okay. So now what's the problem here? So the problem is it's really hard for primary audience like the pitcher to start a project. Okay, so all of you have identified those challenges. And then there is an issue with the secondary audience. The issue is they are time poor. So they, for you as a student, you think that Sirat is a supervisor for you only. Okay, so this is the 100% task of Sirat to supervise you. So you may be thinking that about your supervisor, that your supervisor is being created for you. Okay, but when it comes to the supervisor, he has a student Toby, Tina, Isabella, Luca, and Yun. So you all are under the supervision of one person. And then he's not only supervising, he has his own research projects, he has own collaborating team, he has grant applications, he's thinking about impact and engagement, and then he has teaching commitment, subject coordinator role, subject convener role, and then he's acting as a leader of some activities. Like Corinne is head of postgraduate studies dealing with over 100 students and academics, variety of things on the plate. So these secondary audience, they are time poor. So now as a student, how you can approach your research supervisor, research mentor, knowing that they have so many things on the plate, and you still ensure that you convince them with your research idea, and you get their feedback, and you really make your proposal into a project. Okay, so now there is a problem here for primary audience, how to start a project, and problem here for secondary audience is their time poor. So now the pitching research template is designed to solve this problem, to help novice researchers to start a project, and help the senior academics to give the feedback around a proposal that is only 2 pages and just 1,000 words. So you see, if someone give me a proposal of 10 pages and there are 3,000 words, and someone gave me 2 pages template with 1,000 word, and I'm time poor, so I'll see how quickly and efficiently I can navigate it through. Of course, less is more, like 2-page template with 1,000 word will make my task easy, but still I can see the overall picture of the project, the proposal, and then the conversation can start, and then later on you can bring more details on the table. Okay, so here is to one picture from phdcomics.com. Anyone have seen this website? So in my PhD, I used to follow this website. They share a lot of interesting facts and figures. So what's happening here? So one student, so two students with same supervisors, they are going to meet with the supervisor. So now there is a long queue outside. So everyone is given the same time. Of course, we don't see it at UW. So your supervisors are really senior. They are experienced people. But it's really good to know that 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 what's happening from supervisor point of view. So many students are in a queue to get the feedback on their paper, and it's only one task: supervision. There are projects, there are grant application, impact and engagement, teaching, their family, so many things happening in supervisor's life. And here is poor Professor Smith, just a hypothetical professor. So student come to see the professor, and professor haven't checked the email where student sent the proposal to get some feedback, and now professor is saying I forget it now, and maybe I'll check it later. And poor student is just thinking, where did you put it? Like, why you haven't read my email? Do you have a special folder for that? And that folder is inbox. Okay, so if I open my email right now and I show you how many emails have come since morning, you may be surprised to see a lot of things are happening. Like students are keep sending emails, and my colleagues, and all of things coming together. So now if you have to approach these time poor supervisors to read your proposal, to listen to you, what what you have brought, and to give you feedback on your idea, how you will go about it. So what do you think? I know you know the pitching template, but at this moment, if you have to approach the time poor mentor uh, and you have to share your research proposal, how you will go about it? What do you think? Now you understood the supervisor problem. The time is an issue. So what you will do? Can anyone share the thoughts? Yes. Toby, would you like to say something?
Then maybe I just present the key points, like what I changed from previous version, and what's the selling points of my proposal. How does it different from previous research? Make a condensed summary for my supervisors.
Hmm. Yeah. So Toby is saying that he will have a condensed summary that what others have done and how your proposed idea differs from others. Okay. So, but how long will it be? Like condensed summary, will it be one paragraph, 1 page, 2 pages, 5 pages, 10 pages? Because literature is broad. So then it is an important question to consider. We know the supervisor is time poor.
So before attending this class, I thought longer is better. Longer looks like I'm doing a lot, but after this class, I changed my mind. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Toby. So basically what we are saying, when we are starting a conversation, like we're talking about at a very early stage. We are not talking about a later stage. When it is a very early stage, less is more. Okay, but when it comes to, like, if you have convinced your mentor, they are happy with your research idea, you're progressing towards right direction, then they can request you for more details. Now you bring a detailed literature review, a detailed theoretical framework section, a detailed methodology, and then you build into that. Okay, so we are talking about right at the start, so what you should bring to really get an early feedback from your research mentor. So the things that are coming in our mind, how to approach a time poor supervisor, what aspects to cover, how detailed does it have to be, and how best to present the information for efficient and effective consumption and assessment. So these are the few things, and to get it done in an appropriate way, the pitching template is a solution to this problem. So what it does, so it brings three things together. Starting research problem for novice researchers, from someone who is junior academic, PhD student, honors. So they really struggle how to start a project because they haven't seen the whole process. Like it's really the future, the research process is mysterious. Okay, so how to start, it's challenging. But if you have several projects already published, then you know how the project look like, how to start. But for novice researchers, starting a project is a challenge. For mentoring research mentors, the time is an issue. So the tool, pitching research tool, really enable the starting and the time poor supervisor to really help the novice researchers to progress. Okay, so here is the elevator pitch, which has 11 questions. So for any research project, when it is at a very embryonic stage, what you should be concerned about, you should be looking for the working title, the research questions, the key papers, the motivation, the idea, the data, the tools, what is new, who cares, so what, the contribution, and some other contributions. Okay, so these 11 questions, if you can answer like at a very start of your research project, then you have started a project. Okay, so but if you miss any of these points, then you are missing a critical thing that later on may result in a project failure. Okay, so whenever you start a project, ask these 11 questions to really have a good start. And the pitching research template is designed around these 11 questions. And here is the pitching research template. Most of you have seen it in our previous talk. So it's a 2-page template, uh, and it starts like 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can see the 4 points here, A to D, and then it has 3 points here, and then it has 2 here, and this is 1. So you may be thinking it's 4 here, 3, 2, 1, and what about this one, other consideration? So Professor Robert have said it's +1. Okay, so it's just +1. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1, +1. Okay, so arithmetically, if you sum these together, 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 2, 9, 9 plus 1, 10. So 10. So these are 10 main parts, you can say, of the pitch template, and +1 is this 11th part, other consideration. So if you have to remember the template, like internalize the template, then I give you one analogy, that is a dinner party analogy. So what start, if you go for a dinner party or any dinner, what is in the start, middle, and in the end? So the start is the entry, like the starter. So you start with something light. So that item A to D here are just like a starter. Okay, these are the entry, and then the main meal is around items E to G, which is E to J. So these are the main meal. And then the dessert is item K, other consideration, which is here. Okay. So next time, if you have to recall what is the pitching template, how it is structured, remember a dinner party, entree, main meal, and dessert. And then you can easily recall what the template look like. How to prepare a pitch template? So there are 2 options available. The one option is you have the Word file where you can you can see the cues for the picture, and you can then delete those cues, or you can keep it and then populate your answer under that, and then in that way you can prepare the pitch. So it's a Word file. I'll share the slides and you can click on the link and you can download the Word file, which has all the cues for the pictures, which just like this. So this page, you will get it. Anyone have this page already? So you have that. So if you don't have, then I'll share the slides and you can download from the click. So you see here we have in the red text, these are the cues for the picture. Okay, so when you have to fill it, you can delete these cues for the picture and you can have your own content. Another way is you go to the pitch my research portal and you prepare the pitch on that. Okay, so it's a live like the digital version. So I normally prefer to prepare the pitch on the pitching research on this website. And it also gives you the historical view. So if you fill like one part of the template and you come back to it 2-3 days after, it will show you the history. So what you did in the past in that section and now what you have done now. So in that way, you can see how it is evolving. Each section is evolving over the period of time. Have you registered for this? Anyone? No? So I'm sharing the link in the chat box. Okay, so I hope that it may take a couple of minutes to register for it. Just click on that and then you can do the registration. Okay, so I have my account and most of the projects that I start, I prepare a pitch for that and then all of my projects are listed there. Okay, so yeah, so these are the two ways to prepare your pitch. So there are some guidelines about the word limit. As we said, the research mentoring problem, the time is an issue. So you have to be very precise. So less is more until more is requested. So this is about Toby's point that he wants to be more concise and then convince the supervisors about the viability of the research idea. And if supervisors ask more, then give more later on. Okay, so here are the guidelines for each section. The working title, 10 to 12 words, research question, 10 to 20 to 30, key papers, 60 to 70, motivation, up to 200 words. Previously, it used to be 100 words, but now there are some revised guidelines. So now the motivation is up to 200 words. Idea data tools, for each of the section up to 150 words. For novelty, so what, and contribution up to 100 words, and for other considerations up to 100 words. So it's, you can say plus minus 20%, 1000 words. So try to be there when you're starting a conversation with your supervisors, and later on if your supervisors are convinced about the viability of the project, then you start preparing your proposal, which is required for the defense for the PhD students. Okay, so some of the things that are in the beginning, which you see at the top of the template, the picture name, which is about the ownership, who owns the idea, field of research, and the completion date. What do you think? Why it is important? Pitcher's name. Like you're preparing a pitch template. Why it is important to pitch to write the name? Anyone? Yes, why it is important to put the name? Yes, Tina want to say something? Yes, just give something. Why if you're preparing a proposal, the pitch template, why you should put your name here? Why not keep it without the name?
Okay. Give the general idea about my research.
Yeah, so I'm saying, Tina, here to show that this research idea belongs to you, and that's why you want to put your name. So you want to claim the ownership. Okay, so sometimes like many people are working simultaneously on similar idea. Like when you think about climate change climate change. So multiple people are working on climate change issue. So maybe very similar research idea they have. So when you put your name here and then you fill the template, and later on, if you make this template available publicly, then you are telling to the wider research community that this research idea belongs to you. But sometimes it happens despite of your idea being publicly available and you have shown that this belongs to you, someone else may publish before you if they have more research capacity. Like some senior person may come up with the research project before you. So according to Professor Robert Pfaff, it is important that you prepare your pitch template and make it publicly available. But if you think that someone can steal the idea, then you may keep it with you. You may keep it private. And once you have the working paper, you can then present it in a conference to claim the first mover advantage. You may present in an internal or external seminar at some university, and you can say that this is what belongs to you and you are the first mover. Okay, so it's really important to ensure that that no one can take out your idea. You take care of that. Field of research. Anyone have heard about this term FOR? Field of research. So field of research is important to see the impact and engagement. So I'm showing you one link which is from Australia and New Zealand Standard Research Classification. So this is an old link, 2008. So here we see what the field of research look like for you. So it's important to classify research into a proper field of research. So if I just search for business, so business and management, it has a field of research 1503. So if I click on that, what is included there? It has some sub field of research under business. Okay, so if someone is doing research in finance, banking, finance, and investment, so your field of research is 1502. Okay, so when we apply for external fundings, where university apply for rankings to some of the ranking bodies, the universities have to tell to the funding body and to the ranking bodies that in which field of research our researchers have published how many papers. Okay, so it's important in this template that we identify the field of research. So next time when you fill the template, go to the field of research and try to see where your research is fitting. And the date of completion is also important, that you put the date of completion for the first version, and then if you improve the pitch template, then you put the new date, and then you keep moving so that you can track it in the past. Okay, so these are the starting things, the beginning. So now let me go to the entry, the starter. Okay, so that the starter, as I said, they are the first four parts of the pitching template: the working title, the basic research question, key papers, and the motivation. So in these four bigger picture part, we want to convince the reader, the pitchee, what are we doing and why we are doing that. So you see in research, these are very important questions: what we are doing, why we are doing, and how we are doing. So these are the three important questions: what, why, and how. So the first four parts of the pitching template help us to answer what and why. So what is included in these four parts? So the working title, so these four I'm going to discuss one by one instead of spending time there. So let's start with the part A, working title. So working title of the project. So normally it's a practice when we start any project, we come up with some broad title, but it's not the final title. It's a working title, and later on it can evolve over the period of time. Sometimes you see the papers published in a journal, they have very different title of the working papers. Like we can track the working papers when they were presented in some conferences, and you can see the published title is significantly different from the working title. So as a novice researcher, don't be scared of putting any title. So just put a working title which you think covers the main theme of the project. Okay, and later on you can refine it. So what are the three criterias that I would like to highlight here for a working title? So working title should be informative. It should tell the big picture of your research project. It should be attention grabbing, and it should be searchable. Okay, so if you can fix these three parts in your working title, that's the best working title we can have. Okay, so let me share with you one of the working title of my paper. So that is what determine stock liquidity in Australia. So that is a published paper, but you think it as a working title. So if I search for it, what determines stock liquidity in Australia? So, and if I go to the paper, so this you can say it gives the information that in this paper I'm looking at Australian market, and I'm looking for what is the determinant or what causes the change in the stock liquidity. So I'm looking for a determinant of stock liquidity in Australia, and I'm probing a question. Okay, so there can be many determinants. So what is the most important determinant? So I'm raising some questions into the mind of the audience. So you to grab the attention, that can be one way. There can be other ways as well, and it is informative, and it is searchable as well. So if you have to do research on stock liquidity, so you may search for determinants of stock liquidity. If you search for it, my paper may come there as one paper under the determinants of stock liquidity. Okay, and if it is searchable, then people will read it, download it, and cite it, and then it will have an impact on the academic community. Okay, so when it comes to working paper, working title, so make sure it's informative, attention grabbing, and searchable. Okay, can anyone share the working title of their thesis or maybe first research paper? You can write in the chat box what you're thinking at this moment. It can be very broad, may not fit these three criterias. I'm not asking you to think about informative, attention grabbing, and searchable, but anything you would like to tell us. I can go to your supervisor's profile page. They have your details, and I can see and what project you're working on. Okay, so just anything. Yeah, Luca is saying reporting delays and information content of off-market trades. Yeah, so it looked like you're looking for if there is delay in reporting, what effect it will have on the information content. And the delay is for the off-market trade. So if there is off-market trade and there is a delay in reporting of that, what it will have an impact on the information content. That's good. Okay, so think about your working titles and see how you can fill these criterias. Now let's move to the basic research question. So basic research question, as it says, it's a question. Okay, so it should be one sentence, and it should be linked to the title of the paper. Okay, so the title of the paper should be clearly linked to that. And then later on, the research question should be linked to the testable hypothesis. So when it comes to research question, it should be linked to the title, which comes before the research question, and it should be linked to the testable hypothesis. Okay, so if I say the title of the research question, the research paper that I have shown, what determines stock liquidity in Australia? So my title and research question are very similar, but normally it is recommended that your research question should be little bit more informative than the working title. Okay, it should bring more information for the readers. Okay, so think about the working title and bring more information in a question format for the readers, and then probe the question into their mind. And then it should lead to the testable hypothesis. So what determines stock liquidity in Australia? That was a question and working paper, both were similar. So the testable hypothesis in my project was the better corporate governance quality improves stock liquidity in Australia. So that was around the theory I built the testable hypothesis. So I said, what determines stock liquidity in Australia? And then my testable hypothesis was better corporate governance quality improves stock liquidity in Australia. So I built the argument around that. So the research question later on should be connected to the testable hypothesis. The key papers from where the research question comes. So you have to identify a few key papers, but to identify that you have to do a literature review. Okay, so anyone have seen this cocktail glass approach to reading and filtering literature? So you start with something bigger, and then you read the literature around a bigger theme, like the determinants of stock liquidity. If I search it on Google Scholar, Web of Science, Scopus, different databases, determinants of stock liquidity, there will be hundreds of articles coming. So I have to then narrow them down and then identify just key papers, maybe very few papers, which I will give you the number just in a couple of minutes. So you have to narrow the broad literature to key papers only, and then you dig them in detail. Okay, so that narrow base, you dig them in detail, and then you build your study on that. So I have brought one link for you. I'm just clicking on this picture, which I have used the hyperlink. So UOW have a very good resource for you how to start your research. So if you go to this link, so explore the literature, a lot of details there, finding scholarly resources, systematic literature review, alerts for researchers, managing your references. So these few bits are about literature review. So I encourage all of you to go through this link and systematically do the literature review. So you have to start from broader literature and narrow it down to the key papers. So, okay. So for the pitching template, we are assuming that you know this literature review skill, you have that, and you have then you have dived into the ocean of the literature and you have picked the few jewels, okay, few key papers. So this is what we are assuming, and that few papers are in this pitching research. We are saying only 3 papers. Okay, so the maximum of 3 papers, and those 3 papers should be written by the experts, the gurus, should be very recent, 3 to 5 years, published in 3 to 5 years, and published in high quality journals. Okay, so these 3 criterias should be matched with the should be filled by each key paper. Okay, so now if I ask you a question that how we can identify the paper is from high quality journal, anyone knows? So you know the broad literature, you have picked the key papers related to your research question, and now those 3 key papers, how you can ensure that they are from the high quality journal? This is the question that I'm asking. Yes, Isabella?
You can look up the ABDC list of journals and you can check to see if that journal is in that list.
Yes, that's excellent. So in Australian context, Isabella is saying we can look at the ABDC journal ranking available. So we can click on that. So if I go to the ABDC website, I hope that Corinne or someone should have shared that list with you. So if I go into that website and click on this link, so this is ABDC. I'm opening that file, Excel file. So the way I view this, like your key papers should be from this list and in a top rank. So there are 4 ranking: A star, A, B, C. A star is on the top. So if you're doing research in finance, because I'm from finance, I just give finance example. The field of research that I showed previously for finance is 1502. So I can only go for 1502, and I can click on that. So now only finance journals are are shown here. And then within the finance journals, I only want to see A-star journals. So I click on A-stars. So you see how many A-stars. So we can count them on finger, only 13. All around the world, finance journals, there are only 13 that are A-star. Think about the competition. How many universities in finance offering finance PhDs? And if you want to target A-star, you have to be really good in your research project. Otherwise, the competition is too high. You will never end up publishing here. I have only one publication in A-star, that is in Journal of Financial Market. That's the only one. But we have other finance academics. They are publishing a lot in A-stars. So have this list ready with you in your field of research, and then in that way you can ensure your paper is from top tier journal. What about the expert? How we can identify the person who have published the paper that you have selected as a key paper is an expert? You can go to their profile. Okay, you can check their Google Scholar, how many times their research have been cited. Go to their profile and see, are they publishing in the same research idea over the period of time? Or it may be just one-off paper with some PhD student and they are not pursuing that research stream over the long period of time. So you can go to their profile to check whether they are expert in that area or not. And very recent, 3 to 5 years. The question that is critical here, so if you focus on recent papers, 3 to 5 years, what about the seminal papers? So Professor Robert has given a revised rule. So 3 plus 1. So 3 papers that are recent plus 1 that is a seminal paper. So you can also bring that. I read the pitch of Luca, which he shared. So he has some seminal papers in his pitch. That is good to see that you know from where the research started. You can bring it as a key paper, but the most recent papers should be at least should be up to 3. Okay. Anyone knows any other ranking list? We know ABDC, but if you have to like some of the students from international market, the China and Italy, and Yun, from which country are you?
Burma.
Sorry?
I'm from Myanmar.
Vietnam?
No, Myanmar. Burma.
Myanmar.
Yes.
Myanmar. Okay. So you can see that the ABDC ranking is applicable to Australian market. But when it comes to international rankings, so let me see. Can you see the PowerPoint view? With the notes. So there is another Q1, Q2, Q3. We have the list of ranking from Schemago. So you can also go there. ABS is more of a UK based ranking in Europe. And then you can also go to the journals. I think I can show that. Corinne, we have three hours. Yes, so I'll take the full time if the students don't get exhausted. Okay, so let me go to the list that I was showing here. Okay. So you can go to the journals. So we are talking about how we can pick up the paper is from top ranked journal. So for each journal, we see some of the matrices here. Okay, so this is Schemago, which is showing a score, but you can also know whether it's a Q1, Q2, Q3. Q1 is the top. I think Pacific Basin Finance is Q1. And anyone have checked this? View more on Journal Insights. It's hidden. I think it should be highlighted like it should be like more upfront. But if I click on that, all of the elsewhere journals have this more insights on the journals. What's the site score, impact factor? These are the impact related. Review speed, how much time they take to review a paper. So if I click on that, so Pacific Basin Finance takes 7 weeks to get to the first decision. Okay, so if we want to get a faster review to the elsewhere journals, we can go there, but there can be exceptions because this is the average time.
There are definitely exceptions to that. How long are we going to till we find out about our AJM paper?
Yeah, it's already more than three months,
That's
but
why I have
normally.
to give them an email and say, listen here, you've got an average time of 6 weeks. What is going on?
Yeah, I think we are in pandemic situation, so we can give some
Yeah.
grace time. So
Well, I'm done with the pandemic right now. We need to get that moving.
yeah, so that's true. So the exceptions are there, but we hope that we not always fall into that exception.
Yeah,
So
well, no news is good news. That's what I'm thinking.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Not on our desk.
Okay, so one more thing, like we can also see the reach of the journal. Who are the authors publishing in this journal? So you can see in Australia and in China, Pacific Basin Finance is really favored by the community. Who are the downloading? Like who is downloading papers from this journal? Australia and China. So most of the highest downloads are coming from China, and we can understand it's considered one of the top ranked journal in China. So if you publish there, then you are considered an esteemed researcher. But you see who is downloading. So in United Kingdom, people are not publishing in Pacific Basin Finance, but they are downloading the papers from this journal. So I hope that you look at into these insights about particular journals to pick up the journals that are really of high quality. Motivation and puzzle, this is the big thing that we really need to relate our project to. So here are the three things that I want to highlight, that if you have to think about the motivation of your research project, see if you can find some of these three ingredients. So is your project related to the real world phenomena? Okay, real world phenomena like COVID-19. It's a real world issue everyone is facing. All the companies, all the individuals in all around the world have been facing that challenge. And if we go to the Sustainable Development Goal website, so all the global challenges, like 17 of them, have been listed here. So can you think about your project related to any of these sustainable development goals? So that's a real world phenomena. So if you can find relate your project to sustainable development goal or anything outside it, then you have a good motivation for your research. So it means there is a huge demand of the research findings that we want a solution through your research project. So think about the motivation from sustainable development viewpoint and real world phenomena. And then can you see, is there any theoretical tension or literature gap? So we see there are real world issues that we want to solve as a researcher, but have already someone done research on that? What is the current state of research on that? What are the theories available? So are there any conflicting theories? So if there are conflicting theories, like one theory is suggesting a different answer, whereas the other theory is suggesting an opposite, like very different answer. So can we exploit that and motivate our study from there? Are there any differences in the empirical findings? Like a group of scholars are saying the results are like the positive results, and group of scholars are saying the results are negative results. Like if we talk about the relationship between two variables, so can you build your motivation around that? And then the key stakeholders who will benefit out of your research. Is there any demand of the research findings that your project is related to? The firms can be the stakeholders, the government, the policymakers can be stakeholders, the investors, okay, the stock exchange, the bond market, they can be the stakeholders of your research. Can you pick up the specific stakeholders that are requiring research empirical results on some issues that the real world is facing, and there is academic tension around that? So if you can think about your motivation around these three areas, then I believe that your project tick that box. Okay, so think about that. So we are done with the entry. Now we are going into the main meal, and within the main meal, we're going to talk about the three: the idea, the data, the tool, and it will help us to answer the generic research question, what we are doing and how we are doing. Okay, so that's the Toby's challenge when he said about starting a project. It's not difficult. It's not only difficult to find a research question, it's also difficult how we are going to address that question. So in research, it is critical what and how, and these three: idea, data, and tool are specifically designed to overcome that issue. Okay, so in terms of idea, uh, what we are looking for in this template is we want you to think about theories that you can use to develop the hypothesis. And once we test that hypothesis, it will help answer the research question. So think about the research question I had is what determines stock liquidity in Australia? And when it comes to the testable hypothesis, I use the agency theory, which is around information asymmetry. And then I said better corporate governance can improve stock liquidity in Australia. So, but in my research paper, there was no theoretical tension. I used only one theory and then built up a straightforward hypothesis. But what is more promising, if you can find conflicting theories around your research idea, and then you come up with a testable hypothesis that requires empirical results to really know the right answer. And you remember in the motivation section we said that if there is any theoretical tension. Okay, so that is a motivation, but in idea part, you are now picking those theories, and then you are saying that, look, one theory is predicting one answer, another theory is predicting a different answer, and then as a researcher, you are coming up with non-directional hypotheses. We don't know, or you may use conflicting theories, but you may bring some argument into it, and you may say that based on your argument and based on conflicting theories, you believe that the relationship should be positive, or you believe that the relationship should be negative. Okay, so so in idea part, we are looking for the hypothesis that can be tested. So one way to really create attention is to exploit the institutional differences. If someone have done research in Australia, and if you want to do similar research in China, then what are the institutional differences you want to really bring into the hypothesis? Simply saying that China is different from Australian market because of the ownership structure, state-owned, non-state-owned, is not enough. You have to embed that into your hypothesis. You may have to say that in Chinese setting, you expect the relationship between A and B will be stronger. Our relationship between A and B will be weaker. So if you can, like even Australia, someone have found A affects B positively, but in Chinese setting, you can say that A negatively affect B because of this institutional setting. So you use theories and build hypotheses, which is very different from Australian setting. So if you can do that in idea section, that's a complete package you can have. To give you one example here, what we did in one of our paper about exploiting the institutional difference. So this is my only A-star paper. So what we did, we related two variables, the stock liquidity and default risk. So stock liquidity was independent variable, default risk was dependent variable. So there was a paper in US published in Journal of Financial Economics, which is another A-star journal. So US based paper, we said that we can't generalize the findings to the findings around the world, because world is scattered like developed countries, underdeveloped countries, the emerging economies. So there's a lot of heterogeneity. So we can't really generalize the findings from US. So what we did, so we motivated the study in a way that we said that there are a lot of defaults happening. So this was the real world phenomena. The companies are defaulting all around the world. So if we can improve stock liquidity, we can reduce the default. So that we are providing as a solution. So does it happen empirically or not around the world? So we build a motivation around that. So we said that US evidence is available. This is a US paper. And what we are saying, generalizing the findings from US papers to all other countries is not plausible for two reasons. So there is an issue. We can't generalize. So we brought the issue one, and then we brought the second issue. And then we said that, look, if there are issues, we can't really generalize. That's why we need an empirical question using an international data. Okay, and then we said that there are two reasons the economies differ from each other. That's why the effect of liquidity on default risk can differ. Then we embedded it in our research, in our hypothesis, the idea. So that was a general hypothesis, which is very similar to US paper, that higher stock liquidity reduces default risk across the world. So we are coming up with the same research hypothesis, but then we are bringing the institutional setting. So we said that the effect of stock liquidity on default risk is stronger in countries with weaker investor protection. So we argued in that way. So US findings of higher stock liquidity reduces default risk is only applicable to the economies like the where the weaker investor protection is available. Whereas there is stronger investor protection, the findings are not stronger, they are weaker, or maybe opposite. Okay, and then we also build hypotheses about poorer information environment in different countries. The effect may be more pronounced of stock liquidity with the default risk. Okay, so think about your research idea. Can you exploit the institutional differences? If yes, that's a great idea. And if you can embed it in your hypothesis. Okay, and then your idea should be linked to your research question and motivation. Okay, so that you can see these were coming from the entry, like the item B and item D, and this key research question coming from key papers. Okay, so you see all are connected together, and the idea should be linked to the previous section. The data, in the data, we need to have 7 questions that needs to be addressed. So you think about your project, your research question, the working title, the motivation of your study, the idea. Now you are addressing whether the data is available or not. So if I have an idea that I can fly without a plane, is it really a realistic idea? Can we do that? So it's not, the ideas can be wonderful, but are they feasible or not? The data will, in terms of research, the data will really tell us. Okay, so what data do you propose to use? What will be the country you're setting? Are you using China, the US, the UK, or Australian setting? Why that setting is important? Think about that. Are there any institutional setting that you have embedded in your research idea? So things like that. What will be the unit of analysis? Are you going to collect data from individuals, from firms, from at industry level or at a country level? Sample period, will it be a more recent sample period, like including the COVID situation? Will it be before COVID? What will be the data frequency? It will be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, and why it is so. What's the type of the data from specific industry versus macro? So you think about that. More important is why you are using what kind of data. That's an important thing. So you need to convince the pitchy here. What sample size? Will it be cross-sectional or time series? So time series data only have one particular individual or one particular firm over the 10, 20 years. Okay, or over the 252 trading days. So one particular company. So when it comes to the cross-sectional, it is multiple companies in one time period. So like in 2020, you are collecting data for 500 firms. But when it comes to the panel data, you are collecting data for 10 years across 500 companies. It becomes a panel data. Okay, so you have to different statistical tools that will come in next part are designed for different type of data. Cross-sectional data requires different tools. The time series data requires different tool, and panel data have different tools. So it's really about the data that will help us to identify the tools. What about the sources? That's really important. Whether the data will be hand collected, do you have time to collect the data? How much time it will take? If it is honors thesis, if it is PhD thesis, think about your overall thesis, what time you have. You have to put it in the template so that you can discuss with your mentor, with your supervisor, to really ensure that there is no hurdle later on in terms of the hand collected data. The time frame, how much time it will take. Do you need any additional support, research assistance? Can you apply for some funding to get the research assistant? Okay. Okay, so then the data, missing data issues, the merging, the cleansing. So I hope that at the start of your project, you may not really bring these things, but you discuss with your supervisor based on your understanding. What do you think about the data quality issues that you may face in your project? Okay, and then your supervisor can start the conversation and give you more tasks around that, and you can then ensure that there are no significant issues around that. Will your test variable exhibit adequate variation? Test variable is normally we have independent variable and dependent variable. So if we want to see what is the effect of independent variable or dependent variable, they should have some variation over the period of time, or they should have cross-sectional variation. Okay, if they are not varying, then they are not variable, they are constant. Okay, so in research we need to have the variation in our variables to really see if independent variable have a causal effect on the dependent variable. Okay, so other data obstacle, external validity, construct validity, anyone knows about these? External validity is, can we generalize our results from the sample to the overall population? Okay, so if you only use ASX 200 forms, which represent majority of the Australian market based on the market capitalization, then we can we generalize those findings to small firms or mid cap firms? Okay, so think about external validity and construct validity as well. The way we are measuring independent variable, does it really measure the independent variable? The way we are measuring dependent variable, does it really measure, are we able to operationalize the construct? Okay, so think about that, and literature can guide you around that. The key papers, the way they measured, you can think about the construct validity around that. The tools, all about, so you have the idea, you have the data, what tools you will be using to find to test the hypothesis. Are you going for regression analysis? If it is a secondary data, are you going for survey based, like questionnaire or an interview? If it is a survey or interview, then you need to really get ethical clearance. Are you prepared for that? Do you know how much time it will take to get ethical clearance? So okay, so think about your research idea and think about what tools are appropriate for that. Do you need econometric software to do the analysis? Do you need Stata, the R, the Python? Does your university have the subscription to those softwares? And what about the knowledge implementation? Do you have the skills to use those softwares? So you think about, you have to pitch this to your pitchy, your research mentor. So be upfront, put all the tools that you think you have to use, and be clear that what software you need, and do you have the skills. If not, then this is a good thing to identify it at the start, and think, and mentor can guide you what courses you can enroll to overcome this issue. And you may ask your supervisor, do you have have you used this tool in your research? If yes, then you may get some of the time from your supervisors, like they may teach you. Okay, so depending on the way you progress in a team. Okay. Okay, so I think as a PhD student and as honor student, you're doing a lot of subjects and workshops around the tools. So attend those courses, those workshops, and pick the right tool and bring that in the pitch template. And now we are moving to the final part, why and what's new. And then we have to talk about the contribution, and then we finish the pitching template orientation. So why and what we are doing. Okay, so and what is new? That's the so as we are moving from the top of the pitch template to the bottom, so we are moving towards the more and more important and narrower part. Okay, so let's talk about what's new. So what is novel in your research? Is the novelty coming from the idea, like your hypothesis? Is the novelty coming from the data? You may have some hand collected unique data which has not been used by any of the researchers in the past. Or the novelty is in the tool. You may have identified some events, some shocks, which I am not going into discussion. You may have some unique act that have been introduced into the market, and you want to see due to that act, due to that government regulation, how the how your test variable, how your independent and dependent variable have changed in their relationship after the act was introduced. Okay, so things like that. So you may want to use some unique tools like difference in difference analysis, propensity score matching, to show the uniqueness of your research. So if you are really good, you may bring the novelty from all three: idea, data, tool, or at least one of these three core research areas. And then you can see which one is the driver of the novelty. It may be the data that is driving the other parts. It may be the tools. It may be the idea. What do you see here? The Venn diagram. Anyone can see something different? What is this? This is ink blot test. Anything else? Any cartoon? Of course, it's not a rabbit. Rabbit has big ears, but dropped maybe, sometimes standing. Do you see a Mickey Mouse? Yes, all of you can now see Mickey Mouse. So this Venn diagram, Professor Robert is inspired by the Mickey Mouse. Maybe when he was small kid, used to watch Mickey Mouse. So he has prepared some fantasy pitchings around Mickey Mouse as well, how Mickey Mouse and climate change, they are related. So when it comes to the novelty of your research idea, think about Mickey Mouse, think about Venn diagram, and try to identify three aspects of your research. When you combine them together, what is new is the middle part of that. Okay, so these three aspects can come from the mix of the idea, data, the tool, or all three can come from the idea part, all three can come from data part, all three can come from tool part. Okay, so when you come to meet with your supervisor, with your pitchee, prepare a Mickey Mouse, the Venn diagram, and discuss what is new in your research project. And then an important thing is, yes, you have fantastic idea, you have the data, you have the tool, you have identified the newness part, the novelty of your research project. Who cares? Okay, so Professor Robert, someone I think from Chinese market mentioned that so what is sometimes offensive in that market. So Professor Robert have given a different term for that. That is who cares. So if you think that so what is a bit offensive, then who cares? So who cares about the findings, or who cares about your research project? Okay, so you have to think about the three things. You remember in the motivation part, we said that who are the stakeholders if they are requiring the findings, a solution. They can be firm, they can be investors, they can be regulators, policymakers, the sustainable development goals around that. So is there any impact on the stakeholders that your research project can have? So that it means you can say, who cares about your project? Yes, your project will help the stakeholders to solve this big issue. Okay, so you can identify your key stakeholders related to your project, and you can tell in this part of the pitch template how stakeholders will benefit out of your research project. What will be the economic significance of your research? You know, statistical significance is just 3 stars at 1% level, the 2-star at 5% level, and 1-star at 10% level. So we have to go beyond that and think about what will be the economic significance. Whether your research project will be cited by any policymaker in their policy document. Can you think about that? Okay. And remember, PhD is not winning a Nobel Prize. You have to be innovative. You don't have to invent anything new. Okay, so think about some innovative way to show the impact of your research project in terms of economic significance. You may think about how your project will change the way the stakeholder thinks about a particular phenomena. Like I do research on boardroom gender diversity, and we have seen just on 8th of March, if I'm not wrong, the International Women Day, which was highly celebrated around the world. So the research that I am doing on board diversity in terms of gender diversity, it is linking to the way the females are treated in the wider society. Okay, so if you can think about your project and if it can shape the ideas, the mindset of the people in that particular context, that's what you can mention in so what or who cares about your research project. Okay. Okay, so now the final part is what is the contribution, the section J of the template. So in the contribution, what you have to show is, so normally the contribution is the bottom line, and it will be the mix of what's new, so what that I have just spoken about, and the supreme priority angle. The mixture of all three will be something that you can write in the contribution. So contribution is the most important thing when it comes to publishing. So when you submit your paper, the main reason the paper is rejected is the contribution. So there is no incremental contribution that the paper is having. So whatever we have done in the previous parts of the page, it starts with the working title, then the research questions, then the key research paper, the literature, the key part, then the motivation, the idea, the data, the tool, so what, what's new, whatever we have done there. The main purpose of all those parts was to help us identify what is the bottom line, what is the contribution of this project. So contribution should be something that once your paper is published, then other papers take it as a seminal paper and then build on that a complete new stream of research. Okay, I want to share with you one paper that I considered that really brought something bigger in terms of a complete stream of research. Okay, so I'm going to show one paper. So can you see this paper? Women on board, does boardroom gender diversity affect default risk? There are hundreds of papers around this topic. So this paper was published in Journal of Corporate Finance. I have been communicating with this author, Sela. So what this paper have done? So you see their findings. Our results do not suggest boardroom gender diversity affect firm risk. Previously, the literature was saying female directors are more risk averse. So when more females are appointed on the board, the firm risk goes down. Okay, so that was a broad literature around that. But the way this paper have built their story and they have shown that there is no relationship between boardroom gender diversity and firm risk. And they are able to publish no result findings, no result into the Journal of Corporate Finance, which is A star. Okay, so this paper have started um, a huge stream of research. So I'm going to Google Scholar. So if I search this paper, of course, I'm not robot. Can we find motorcycles? Okay, I hope that I haven't missed. So this paper was published in 2016 and have been cited by 433 papers. How much time it takes? I said about publishing a paper, normally more than 2 years. So from 2016 to another 5 years, 433 papers have been published, which has cited this paper. So you can see the contribution uh, 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 they have made in the literature by showing the female directors does not affect firm risk, has opened up a huge stream of literature, and then many peoples are now building their research projects around that. Okay, so when it comes to the contribution, then what you have to really think about a pathway forward to even more new knowledge. So the way the people think, the researcher do research, can you think about it changes afterwards? Research program, maybe you give some, your project will open up a new debate. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about the contribution. It's challenging. It's not that easy in the start, but if you put something in the template and then start a discussion with your supervisor, then over the period of time, you should be able to really pick up a contribution that will convince the wider community. Then the final thing is other considerations that are very important. So 3 things I want you to think about here is where you want to publish your project. You're just starting your project, but think about what will be the target outputs. Do you need any collaboration? What are the research risk involved? So target output, one guideline that Professor Robert gives is you see your key papers where they are published in A star, A rank journals. That can be a good guide for you to think about your target journal. If all your key papers are A ranked, then it seems unrealistic if you want to publish in A star journal. Okay, so key papers sometimes give you the ceiling, the glass ceiling that is hard to break. Yes, exceptions are there. You can go above that, but normally if the key papers are published in A rank journals, then your target journal, more realistic, can be an A rank journal. So that's why it's recommended to see if you can find A star journals papers in the key papers, and then you target the similar journals for your project. And in that way, you can really have that done. Do you need collaboration? Of course, it's a bit tricky for PhD students and for honor student because we want to develop independent researchers. So we want to show, we want to ensure that you can complete a project on your own. Okay, so once you have shown that, then you can collaborate with others later on in your ongoing projects. But you can still discuss with your supervisors if you need any collaboration, and then you can start the conversation. If supervisor says, no, you do on your own, we as a supervision team can assist you, you just stick to that. But as a pitcher, you think about, do you need any collaboration on idea, on the data, on the tool? Okay, so the 3 things for collaboration. Research risk, there are risks like the competitor risk. If someone have published on similar idea in the past, and that is your key paper in the pitching template, they can be your potential competitor. Okay, so as a PhD student, you may take a long time to execute a project, but for them, they are expert. They have already published in a top tier journal. They have a strong history. That's why they are guru in the field. So they can be your competitors. So you have to ensure that you don't run into that competition risk. And sometimes if you're doing a research on sustainable development goals, then everyone is working on that. Okay, so are you having a high competitor risk, low competitor risk, or no competitor risk? Risk of obsolescence, are you picking a research project that is too old, that may be obsolete? No one want to see your research findings on that. So again, when you have a strong motivation at the start of the pitch template, you are taking care of most of these risks right at the start. But in this other consideration part, you can specifically talk about those risks. What about the scope of the project? Is it too narrow, too broad? Think about the time you have for your honors program, for your PhD thesis, and then start discussion with your supervisors. What can be an appropriate scope for your research? An extended version for other consideration is this K1 to K12. Later on, you can have a look into that. Okay, so one couple of final points. What about a pitching research journey? You may be thinking you have to start with the working title and then you go to the other consideration. So it's not a linear journey. It's a very non-linear journey. You may start with the idea part, may put some other considerations and then come back to the working title. So it can be a quite non-linear journey, which Professor Robert have shown things like that. So it moves from one part to another part. So I think as a novice researcher, this is very important point to share with you, that take it as a non-linear journey and as a journey to improve over the period of time. Okay, and when so this is based on the empirical data. So you see the pitching research web portal. So those pitchers who have completed the pitch template on the web portal. So Professor Robert and his team, I think it's an old data, not the new one. They have picked up how much time the researchers are spending on different parts of the pitch template and how they are moving. And we can see the most of the part is here. So the motivation, the bigger part, the idea, the data. So you can see the bigger circles. So it means more time is spent here. And then there are other parts where people are spending time. Okay, one final thing that is related to your assignment, peer pitch critique. So you have to wear the pitchy hat. The first thing is you have to prepare a very good pitch for your peer, make their job easy. And then your pitchy will wear a reviewer hat and be a critical person. I hope that maintaining a good relationship is one thing, but being professional is also important. So you have to be critical, constructive, and give feedback, as Corinne have suggested you more on that. So this is something that normally from pitchy point of view, this is what we see. I don't know if Corinne will be happy to share this, but I think it's important. Like when you are reviewing the pitch, what as a pitchy you are looking at. So you have to, I think you have to give presentation on that, but you can use this pitchy cues that will be really great to learn the whole process. So you have prepared your own page. Now you see as a pitchy what you will be looking at. So you can see, I'm not going into detail. So there are different questions you will be raising around each section, and then you will be preparing a critique. Okay. So this whole list of questions can really help you to have a very good critique. So I'll share these slides with Corinne and then you will get that. Okay, so there are a lot of things happened since 2014 around pitch. So if you have to go to one-stop shop, there are quite a few around Australia. So you go to one place and you buy everything. Okay, so like eBay or these Amazons, so the digital platforms. So Professor Robert have created a comprehensive resource central, which I can show quickly how it look like. So whatever has happened around the pitch research framework, so you will find everything around that, around this comprehensive resource central. So if I click on that, so this is recently updated, say version 8th of March 2021. So yeah, so it gives a suite of SSRN working papers. So all the pitching papers by Professor Robert Favre, I think more than 20, maybe a little bit more than that. So it lists all those papers, like the first paper, second, third, fourth, fifth. And then the alternative template designs and applications, the competing tools, e-library of worked examples. Like there are hundreds of examples the other people have prepared their pitch. So you can search for related pitch examples to your idea, maybe information disclosure, maybe stock liquidity, maybe off-market trade. You search for that and see if you find some pitch template around that. And then you see what they have done and what you're doing. Associated web portal, Pitch My Research that I have shown, PPT slides, any slides that are available, you can get them from here. YouTube videos, like all the YouTube videos that Professor Robert have delivered, have made available, you can find that. So I think that's an excellent resource. So you keep it as handy with you, and then you are all good with the pitching research framework. I think all done from my side. One final point, which I think Corinne wanted to highlight, is whatever I have discussed, it's about quantitative research framework. If your research is qualitative, the pitching research tool is amended accordingly. Okay, so I'm more of a quantitative guy, not a qualitative guy. So I hope that you can have a self-read around that. And if you need to have more discussion around that, so I'm happy to have a discussion. It's mainly a little twist in the different sections of the pitching template. I think you can have a self-study around that. And these are the readings that Corinne have suggested to you to have handy. Okay, so that's all about the orientation, a bit detailed, but I wanted to give as much as I can. Okay, so let's talk about the pitch template that I prepared during my research journey. So I have shared the paper with all of you, which I think you should have read it. So that's on women in the boardroom and their impact on default risk. That's a pitch published in Accounting Research Journal, ABDC B ranked. So if I think I shared with all of you what the pitch research letter look like. So it has an introduction, and then it has brief commentary on the pitch. Then it goes to the reflection on the pitch research letter, and then the conclusion. So that is the way pitch research letter is constructed, prepared. And one of the outlet where we can publish it is Accounting Research Journal. So related to it, I first time presented the pitch in front of Professor Robert at University of Queensland when I was studying at Griffith University. So I took his course, Research Process in Business, where the PhD students were the attendees. So this was in May 2016. And then after that presentation, Professor Robert shared the pitch of the week through his LinkedIn profile on 17th of May 2016. And then in April 2016, I also used the pitch template to submit an AFANS grant of up to $9,000 with my supervisors. And then this grant was unsuccessful, but I also applied for the internal grant at Griffith University, which is Publication Assistant Scholarship of $5,000 for the same project. And then I was able to continue with the project. So then that project, the pitch research letter, the idea, it was converted into a full paper. And the paper, you can see in the acknowledgement section, I have mentioned the Professor Roberts pitch template and my own pitch research letter that I prepared at the start of the project, and some other information that who has given me feedback on this project and who has helped me in the data collection process as well. So pitching research definitely help us to use the template as a map when we are preparing a full-fledged project. Okay, so here is the pitch research letter that I published. So this is from Emerald Journals, Accounting Research Journal. How it looked like, I'm just showing the template to you. So you can see the big picture, the entry, the first 4 parts, the working title, the basic research question, key paper, motivation and puzzle. So these are 4 items A to D. And then the core part starts, the idea, the data, the tools. These are the 3. And then other 2 parts, H and I's, what's new, so what. And then we have the contribution, the item J1. So 4, 3, 2, 1. And then +1 is item K, other considerations. So when I was preparing this speech template, at that time, I had no idea how the project will look like. Okay, so I prepared this speech template, presented at University of Queensland, got some feedback. Then I discussed with my collaborators who were my supervisors to get their feedback, and then we executed the full project. Okay. So what was the working title? So the working title should be informative and brief. The 3 criteria that I shared with you are the informative, searchable, and catchy. So this title should cover some of those parts. So at that time, I was mainly aware about it should be brief and informative. So as the pitching research framework is evolving, Professor Robert is giving more and more guidelines around that. So you can see women in the boardroom and their impact on default risk. It does provide the information to the reader that in this project, I will be looking at how women in the boardroom have an impact on default risk. So it gives a lot of information. It's brief, like a few things are mentioned. The key parts are mentioned about the project, and it's searchable as well. So when someone will search women in the boardroom and impact on default risk or firm risk, so this paper can come up front. Okay, so that's about the working title that I put forward. Then the basic research question that is related to the title: does the boardroom gender diversity reduce default risk? So you can see in the title, I mentioned the impact. Okay, so whether there will be impact of women on board on default risk or not. But when it comes to the research question, I have made it a bit more specific. So I have mentioned, does women boardroom gender diversity reduce default risk? Okay, so it is also recommended that research question should be neutral. So it can be like, does the boardroom gender diversity affect default risk? Okay, so then it becomes neutral. But what I have brought, I have made it a bit specific. I've said that there should be negative relationship between boardroom gender diversity and default risk. And the reason for that is based on the key papers that I have selected, and I will show you. One of the key paper have shown that the woman on board does not affect firm risk. So I'm bringing a question opposite to that and trying to say it reduces risk in terms of default. Okay, so it really depends on what your project is really fitting in to the broad literature. So this is the research question. In one sentence, I have explained the basic features of the project. Then the key papers, it should be recent by the gurus and published in the top tier journals. So these are the 3 recent papers that I picked after reading a lot of research papers. So you see, I prepared this pitch in 2016, and the pitch paper was published in 2017. So based on that time period, when I was preparing the pitch, 2016 is recent, 3 to 5 years. 2011 is recent, 3 to 5 years. Only this paper is not recent, but this paper is one of the very influential paper in boardroom gender diversity, and it is written by one of the top scholar, Renee Adams, who is highly cited among the academic community in terms of the gender diversity research. She is now working at University of the Oxford University in UK, and she's really a guru in the boardroom gender diversity research. So the message that I want to give it to you is, if you can fill all three criterias, that's good enough. But if you still believe that a paper is violating one of the criteria, but is still fitting the other criterias, you can still keep it as a key paper, and you can discuss with your research mentor if they are happy with that. Okay, so, and I also give you one rule, 3+1. So 3 key papers that fill all 3 criterias, plus one, some other paper which is seminal or maybe influential paper that really you want to keep it as key paper. Okay, so Sila, this paper I have shown it in the first part of the lecture. So this paper shows that the boardroom gender diversity does not affect default risk, firm risk. Okay, published in Journal of Corporate Finance A star. And this paper is from the PhD thesis of Sila. So when I checked it in detail, so this is from thesis, and the supervisor Hagendorf, he's one of the famous in corporate governance research. If you search his profile, you'll see he has published a lot of papers in corporate governance stream. So the authors are really expert. This is what I infer from here. This Gull et al. Paper. So Professor Gull is one of the editor of one A-rank journal, Journal of Contemporary Accounting and Economics, and he received in 2018 the significant contribution award in accounting discipline from one conference, Financial Market and Corporate Governance Conference. So he's also renowned in Australia, and the paper that I have picked is related to my research question. Okay, so these 3 papers I have explained in my pitch research letter why I considered them as key papers for my project. Okay, so then the motivation, what I said about the motivation, can anyone recall from where the motivation should come? Should have a real world phenomena, then a tension in the theory or maybe empirical findings are contradictory, and stakeholder impact, stakeholder orientation. So related to that, default risk and gender diversity in the boardroom, both are real world phenomena. So companies are defaulting all around the world. We have seen it in global financial crisis. We have seen it now as well in COVID crisis. So, and there are severe consequences of default. Okay, social and economic consequences. We can read a lot about that. Okay, so the default risk is a real world phenomena, and the diversity in the boardroom is also one of the real world phenomena. So the companies were lacking diversity all around the world. In Australia, the boardroom gender diversity was quite low before 2010. And in 2010, the new reforms came where the firms are recommended to have more female representation on the boardroom. So the firms are required to have more gender, more females on the board. So you can see from here, the real world phenomena part is ticked in the motivation section, and the gap in the literature, no one have done any study on the boardroom gender diversity and default risk in any of the market. Based on my literature search, no one linked these two variables together. So that was obvious gap in the literature. And the findings around boardroom gender diversity and firm risk, some of the papers were showing positive link, majority of the papers were showing negative link, and one key paper that I have shown have provided no finding, like boredom gender diversity does not affect default farm risk. So we can see the mixed findings are there, and it requires solution. It requires solution. There is an empirical tension that I want to address through this project. Okay. So the motivation part is done. Then we move to the idea part. So what we need to bring in the idea part, we need to have central hypothesis. We need to exploit for theoretical tension, conflicting theories, and we need to exploit the institutional differences. Okay, so if there are institutional differences, as I said, that no one have done research on corporate boredom, gender diversity, and default risk. So I don't need to really make an institutional setting a big thing, because institutional setting becomes more important when someone have done research on other country and you want to do research in a particular a different context, and then you need to embed institutional differences in your idea part. So so what I have done here, I use two theories, agency theory and resource dependence theory, to develop the hypothesis. But as I was just completing my PhD, I haven't brought the conflicting theories, which I believe I should have brought. But at that stage, I only use theories that give the same answer. Okay, so the answer was, like, the testable hypothesis was firms with higher boardroom gender diversity should have lower level of default risk. Okay, so that was straightforward research hypothesis I have brought. So guess what the reviewers have asked me now? So now the paper is conditionally accepted. So there were two reviewers, and both reviewers are saying your story is straightforward. So you are using theories that are predicting a central hypothesis, like there should be negative relationship between boredom, gender diversity, and default risk. So it's not interesting. We don't learn anything new. So what's new? Like, can you bring some other hypotheses? And they have given me options like quiet life hypothesis. They're saying that bring that and highlight that what are the issues when there is diversity in the boardroom can be created, and then it can increase default risk. Like when there are like if all male board, it's easy to reach consensus, and then the decision making becomes more smoother. But if there are male female, if they think differently, make different decisions, there may be less consensus. Okay, on the things that require consensus, there may be no consensus, and in that way firm may be negatively affected. So they have given me that direction to embed in the hypothesis section and prepare a story that shows a tension in the theories. Okay, so but when I prepared the page 5 years ago, then I used only theories that give straight away answer. So the takeaway from here for you is, for you and for myself, that it will be really good if we can bring theories that have competing predictions. Okay, so that will be, and this is what reviewers are looking for, even for this project. But what I brought here is the one is the impact hypothesis, female on board and default risk. Then I discuss the mechanism, how the relationship will be negative. What happens in the boardroom that female directors can reduce default risk. So I have brought the information asymmetry as a channel, that if more females sitting on the board, the information environment within the firm will improve, and then in that way the default risk of the firm will reduce. And then I also brought the substitution hypothesis, that the impact of female directors on default risk will differ based on the internal governance mechanism and external governance mechanism. Okay, so I have brought that here, and in that way my idea part is completed. Okay, one more reviewer, he wanted me to highlight now the institutional setting. Okay, so as I said in the start, I thought that I don't need to bring institutional setting because this is the first paper on this idea. So that reviewer has asked me to highlight whether the gender gap issue is is more severe at the board level in Australian market or at a society level. So they want me to think about whether it's a normal social issue in Australia or it's only a boardroom issue. And when I look into that, Australian society is very multicultural. A lot of females are doing other jobs with male counterparts. But when it comes to the boardroom gender diversity, we see less of a representation during the sample period that I was studying this project. So that's really good that the reviewer has brought that to me. So now the takeaway is bring conflicting theories, provide the central hypotheses, and see what are the institutional setting which you can really highlight in the idea part. The data, these are the 7 questions that we need to really address. How I address that, the first thing is the sample size and the sampling. So my sample that I proposed is Australian non-financial firms. Sample period is 2008 to 2013. In 2010, the gender reforms came that the firms were required to recruit more females on the board, and ASX 200 firms were given a target of achieving at least 30% female representation by 2018. Okay, so you can see in 2010 that was happening. So I wanted to have 3 years before that reform and 3 years after reform, and see if there is any significant relationship between boardroom gender diversity and default risk during the sample period before and after the reforms. And sample size 800 firms and the sample observation 6,400 observations. So it was a panel data. So how I will be measuring default risk, so I relied on the literature. So I'll be using Martin distance to default, credit default spread, and credit default event. So here the construct validity is important. The way I will be measuring default risk, does it really measure the default risk? So I relied on the literature and picked up the proxies of the default risk, which are these 3 proxies. And then I propose that they will capture the default risk. So normally if this measure is higher, Martin distance to default, the default risk is lower. If credit default spread is higher, the default risk is higher. Credit default event is basically the company actually default, and then we want to pick it as a default event and give 1 to that company which is defaulting and 0 to the company which is remaining as a healthy company. How I will be measuring boardroom gender diversity, the simple measures that I picked from the literature, the percentage of women on the board, woman dummy variable, like if at least 1 female is sitting on the board, I give 1. If no female is sitting on the board, I give 0. So it gives us at least 1 woman on the board and 0 women on the board, and try to see to capture the female diversity on the boardroom. And there is another Blau index that I will be using. Did you notice one thing? Everything that I'm presenting in the pitch template, it has 3 circles. Okay, so that's what I believe as an educator. Anything that is presented using rule of 3 will have more impact and easy to remember from psychology point of view. Okay, and then the channel hypothesis that the impact of boardroom gender diversity on default risk is through information asymmetry. Okay, so information asymmetry, so women directors will reduce information asymmetry, and in that way they will improve default risk. How I will be measuring information asymmetry, I'll be using stock liquidity. There are 3 measures I'll be using: time weighted cottage spread, ME-Hood, and LM measure. Liquidity has 3 dimensions: the trading cost, the price impact, and immediacy. So I'm covering all those 3 dimensions through 3 proxies, and in that way I will be able to capture information asymmetry. So you can again think that I'm thinking about the construct validity. The way I am measuring information symmetry, is it the right way or not? So depending on the literature, I have picked up these 3. And for substitution hypothesis, the impact of boardroom gender diversity on default risk will differ based on internal governance mechanism and external governance mechanism. For internal governance mechanism, I measured it through boardroom gender diversity. External governance mechanism, ownership concentration, and product market competition. Okay, the data, do I have the data available for this project? Will it be hand collected, or is there any database available? So when I was starting this project, I looked at whether the boardroom data and the default risk data will be available or not. So I found that the data is available through Circa, which was subscribed by Griffith University at that time. The Morningstar, it's also available, was available at Griffith. Bloomberg, available at Griffith. So all 3 databases which I required to use for the project were available at Griffith University. So I was lucky enough to just get the data from there. And then I had, during my PhD, I had the training to use all 3 databases. So I did not require any additional training around that. So think about your project, the databases you have to interact. Do you have enough training? Do you have enough time? Discuss it with your supervisor, and then keep on moving to the other parts. Okay, other data handling issues, missing data, how I will be cleaning the data, whether the variables have variation and the generalizability. So I tried to address it in the pitching template that my project does not have these issues. Like the boardroom gender diversity from 2008 to 2013, you can see as the recommendations came in 2010, it should be then varying after the recommendations. Does it make sense? So when the firms are required to have more females on the board, so after 2010, we'll see more females are sitting on the board. Okay, so the and the default risk after global financial crisis 2008 to 2013, we'll see firms default risk will be reducing. So now the challenge for me was during the as the reforms about boardroom gender diversity came, the female representation on board is going up, and after global financial crisis, the default risk of the companies is going down. So the question is there a causal relationship between diversity and default risk, or is just a spurious correlation? Because due to market conditions, the governance, gender reforms, and global financial crisis, so the gender diversity and default rates are just moving in an opposite direction, and there is no causal relationship. Okay. Generalizability was not an issue because I was relying on 800 Australian firms over the 6-year period. So that I mentioned that it will be generalizable to wider community. The regression, the tools that I proposed, the baseline regression tools, we'll be using pooled OLS, fixed effect, between effect. Endogeneity, as I mentioned, is an issue whether gender diversity has a causal effect on default risk or not. It's just because of the market conditions, both of these variables are moving in opposite direction. To fix that issue, I use a suite of tools, 2SLS, generalized method of movements, propensity score matching, and difference in difference. Okay, so these are the tools I used to fix this. And this is what I was proposing at the start. Reading the literature and understanding the idea, I was proposing to my collaborator, to my supervisor, that these are the techniques that can help us to solve this issue. Okay, then software, Stata I wanted to use. I had the training on Stata. I have used it in my PhD, and Stata was subscribed by Griffith University. So all things are really good enough. Research assistant, as I finished my PhD and there was no funding available, I did get $5,000 from Griffith University, but I proposed that we do need research assistant. And that's why we applied for the AFANS grant, but it was unsuccessful. And then my supervisors, they did give me some funds to really work on some data parts and some analysis. And then I was able to keep working on the project. Okay, so what was new? As I said, the new part can be all from the data, all can be from idea, and all can be from tool. So here I relied mainly on the idea part. So what's new? You can see this is Venn diagram, the Mickey Mouse, the boardroom gender diversity. There are so many papers on this stream. Default risk, there are so many papers on this stream, but none of the paper in the existing body of literature have related boardroom gender diversity with default risk. So when we overlap these two, this is what is the novelty in the paper. Then on top of it, I also explored what are the mechanisms through which the boardroom gender diversity affect default risk, and is there any substitution effect based on internal and external governance mechanism. So you can see what's new, all coming from the idea part. And then what's new in terms of the broader literature. So the boardroom gender diversity and internal external governance mechanism, they are from the corporate finance. Default risk is coming from asset pricing, and stock liquidity is coming from the market microstructure. Okay, so in this project, by linking boardroom gender diversity with default risk, I was able to link 3 distinct literature streams together: corporate finance, asset pricing, and market microstructure. So think about your project in the broader literature sense, how you're connecting different parts of the broader literature together. And that can be a one big new part that you are having in your research. Okay, so what? So who will care about the results, how the decisions of the different stakeholders will be impacted, the way we think, how it can change. So here I have brought the policy making, regulators and researchers will benefit. So you see researchers are finding mixed outcomes. Boardroom gender diversity may increase firm risk, may reduce firm risk, may not have any impact on firm risk. So through my research, I would be able to contribute to one stream of school of thought, and then I would be able to show that which school of thought is more appropriate. Regulators, Australian corporate governance councils, as they required for more female sitting on the board. So my project will provide empirical findings to either support the regulators or maybe show something different. But if I can show that boardroom gender diversity reduce default risk, then it is in support of the regulators that we should have more female sitting on the board. Investors, when it comes to the investors, they want to invest for returns. So if we can reduce the default risk by having more females sitting on the board, for investors it is a guideline that when they have to construct their portfolio, they look at the boardroom gender diversity of a particular firm, and then they pick the stocks of those companies that have more diversity. Okay, so in that way, their portfolio is exposed to less default risk in one way. And for firms as well, if the default risk can go down, then if that particular firm have to borrow more funds due to less default risk, the cost of borrowing will go down, and in that way, the firm value can go up. Okay, so I hope that you can recall net present value formula. So in net present value formula, the cost of capital is in the numerator, is in the denominator, which is the discount rate. And one of the factors that affect the discount rate is the default risk that affects the cost of debt. And cost of debt is the part of cost of capital. If the denominator goes up, the firm value will go down. So what I'm proposing from here is if more female sitting on the board can bring the default risk of a company down, in that way, the firm value can go up in the future. Okay, so what's the main contribution? That's a big thing that I have mentioned in the pitch research letter. So I'm able to link boardroom gender diversity with race by providing the first comprehensive and robust evidence on the relationship between women on board and default risk. Okay, so that's the big thing. But I have given you more guidelines around that. So the contribution, effectively speaking, it should embed what's new, so what, and then give the prime superiority angle. Okay, so just think about that when you write your contribution. Other considerations that I discussed in the first part of the talk, do I need collaboration on idea, data, and tool? In my pitch research letter, I did mention I need collaborator, mainly on the idea part. And we haven't got that, but I was able to proceed on my own skill, and my supervisors were helpful in that. Target journals. So I was targeting Journal of Corporate Finance, which was one of my key paper, and Accounting and Finance, which is more Australian based journal. I tried here Journal of Corporate Finance, but it was rejected. And now the paper is conditionally accepted in another A star. So the takeaway from here is put some target journal, see how your project is moving, try that. If it doesn't work, just keep on moving. And there are many other journals that can accept your paper. So it was rejected from here, and a different paper journal we targeted. And why I targeted these two journals, the ranking both were either A or A star. The scope, both journals publish a country-specific findings because I was focusing on Australia. So Journal of Corporate Finance also publish Australian studies, US studies, Chinese studies. Accounting and Finance also publish studies from individual countries. Journal of Corporate Finance really encourage papers that can solve the tension in the empirical literature. So as there was a tension, mixed findings, so I was targeting Journal of Corporate Finance and Accounting and Finance simultaneously. No result risk uh, was was very. I said it's high because the recent paper that was published in Journal of Corporate Finance, it shows that there is no causal link between boardroom gender diversity and firm risk. So as an early career researcher, I thought that in my project, maybe I will find the same. But I tried to use different econometric tools to see if in reality it is the case or not. But I was putting high risk. The competition risk was high because many people were working on gender diversity research. So maybe someone will publish before me. Risk of obsolescence, no, because both default risk and gender diversity, they are very topical research areas that everyone wants to work on. The scope of the project, I was focusing on Australian market. What I mentioned in the pitch research letter that I will be extending this project to the international market. And what I did afterwards, so in 2020, you can see there is another paper. So in 2017, I mentioned in the pitch research letter that I will expand the scope. At this moment, I'm only focusing on Australian market. And in 2020, I was able to have another working paper focusing on global data. And this paper was presented in Academy of Management, which is one of the prestigious conference. Okay, so one final thing that I want to highlight, if you want to bring innovation and creativity in your research, so there are three key parts. So any research topic that you are passionate about as an author, that is the first thing that can really bring innovation and creativity. The second thing is passion of the journal. Look at different journals that you want to publish your research and see what those journals are passionate about. So if you can match your passion with the passion of the journals, so looking at their publications, their scope, these two fill the prerequisite for having creativity and innovation in your project. And the final thing is training. Okay, so you can't really have innovation and creativity in your project if you don't have good training in your honors and PhD programs. So that if you combine these three, we have no doubt that you should be able to have a very innovative and creative research project. Okay, so that was all about the pitching research letter, how I prepared and what I learned as I progressed after that. In the pitch research letter, I had some reflections uh, why we should do the pitching research exercise, because it helps us to refine our understanding about the research process. And in that process, we can then have good publications. As an early career researcher, it's challenging to learn the tool and then apply it. So I can understand that. So I have reflected on that challenge. I can understand from your perspective when you're thinking about your project, the pitch tool, it's not that easy. So there are a lot of hurdles which you will overcome as you use the tool more and more. How you can systematically learn the pitching template and the rule of three in pitching template, which I have demonstrated throughout my presentations in the first part and in this part, that whatever I was presenting, so I had three circles that I was trying to emphasize. So pitching tool, it helps in publishing. You can read my paper, what I published based on the pitch template. The challenge as an early career researcher, your know-how about the template, you're still developing and your level of research experience is very low. If you put them together, you may not enjoy the pitching template as a senior person can enjoy, because they know that they have rich experience. It's easy for them to adopt the template. Okay, so what I recommended at that time, I said Professor Robert and pitch ambassadors, they can really support those new users by providing them feedback. Okay, so you can see the global pitch research network that we have just created. It's part of that support that we will be providing to the wider community. Then supervisors, sometimes they don't want to use the tool because they don't have time to learn new tools. So I was recommending at that time that if we can provide illustrative guide, step-by-step procedure for supervisors to then use it as a guide for their students. Okay, so I was a bit tough at that time because I was not supervisor. So now I'm supervisor. So I'm thinking what I have proposed at that time. So I think that was another reflection. And then some deadlines, competitions, and incentives can also help early career researchers to adopt the tool. And you can see in this Buzz 980 and COM 481, so you have some deadlines, some assessments that is requiring you to learn the tool. So in that way, we can overcome the adoptability challenge. That was I reflected in 2017. Systematically learning pitching tools. So I was thinking a lot at that time about the challenges for the new users. Then I said I created my own way. The way I learned the tool may be useful for others to learn the tool in that way. So read the background paper, like the one static paper and one dynamic paper. So and then resource tool, resource center. So if you read that, that's the starting point. Then watch the YouTube videos around the pitching template where Professor Robert is explaining his tool. Reading the exemplary pitch where others have published in similar area, they have prepared the pitch template. You can also read that to understand how others have filled the template. And reading the pitch research letter, the one that I just discussed, where there is introduction, brief commentary, reflection. Read that to inspire your understanding about the pitching research template. So that's the foundation. And then it comes to the core part, the implementation. Complete your own pitch using the cues for pitcher. You can also pay attention to cues for pitchy. Word file or the web portal, you can fill there. Prepare the pitch research letter with your reflections, the one that I discussed, very similar to that. Request Professor Robert to share pitch of the week if you want to make it publicly available. Otherwise, keep it private if you think someone can steal your idea. Participate in pitching research competitions if any call comes in the future. Acting as a pitch ambassador later on, you start teaching others, spreading the word, and then using the pitch template to map actual research projects. So you can see in 2017, I was able to have a pitch template, and then I used it to map my full project, which is about to publish now. So that's my way of learning the pitch template. Your way may be a bit different, but this is what I reflected in the tool. And you can see in my pitch template, I use the rule of three quite a lot. So I then reflected that rule of three is an effective way of learning anything. And after my presentation at University of Queensland in 2016, Professor Robert, he was really, I must say, he was inspired somehow that I have used the rule of three quite a lot. And he said that why not we prepare a working paper on the rule of three? So that's still a draft. We haven't finalized it from last 5 years because there were so many other things are coming. So you can see here what we are preparing, how the rule of three is used in different disciplines. So rule of three in human learning and cognition, then rule of three in marketing, application of rule of three in presentation communication, application of rule of three in philosophy, and rule of three based on hedgehog process. Plato have used the rule of three, sun, dividing line, and cave by Plato, and Pythagoras theorem. So that what I reflected in my pitch template, and afterwards Professor Robert invited me, why not we prepare a SSRN paper. So what I take from here is from all what I've shared as a reflection. So one, we do some activity and then we reflect what we learned out of it and what is the next step. So as an early career researcher, we may put some next steps, but without believing in it, later on we may see something tangible happens around that, and then you feel motivated to do more around that. Okay, so I think that's it, what I wanted to share with all of you.